Shalom to the elect of Israel, to the hopeful elect of Israel, you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians. Gotta give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who rule well, who teach well, and a sincere salutation to all the ark and pushing this truth and believing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, the entire world, waking up the hopeful elect. And shalom to the Agwaf who are listening and learning, the few sisters who are listening and learning. I'm Isaiah, coming at you another lesson in truth, facts, faith, and edification. Another daily edification, the Lord's willing to be edifying. And this is, the Lord have opened his armory to bring forth the weapons of his indignation. The Lord's will is be edifying.
Velocitas Eradico. Sounds like the sort of thing Harry Potter might say when fighting Voldemort, which would be quite apt, as the translation of Velocitas Eradico is quickly get rid, or in the vernacular, speed kills, and is the motto for the no less futuristic US Navy electromagnetic railgun project. Now, before we set the comments on fire about the Latin, it seems that Velocitas Eradicat would be a better translation of speed kills, but I'll leave it to you Latin scholars out there to let me know in the comments. So, back to the railgun. Now, some might be saying, why do we need a new gun? We have precision-guided missiles that can travel thousands of kilometres, and the massive 16 and 18-inch guns used in the World War II class battleships have been made almost obsolete by the aforementioned missiles, and the rest can be taken care of by aircraft. In World War II, the weaponry was cheap and easy to make. Tens of thousands of planes and tanks and millions of bombs and shells were produced. The US won the war because they could out-manufacture the Germans and the Japanese whilst keeping their manufacturing base safe. Modern warfare is now about keeping the action at arm's length whilst keeping troops off the ground where possible. Carpet bombing and massive artillery bombardments of large areas doesn't always produce victories, as was seen in Vietnam. Today, precision weapons reduce collateral damage, but remote-controlled drones, high-tech planes and guided missiles are not only extremely expensive to buy, but also to develop in the first place. The US has a stockpile of around about...
Hey, that's what the Lord say. Beat your plowshares and the swords and your pruning hooks and the spears. He want all these nations to spend all their money into their missile defense system. This is Isaiah 54:16. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy. Okay? This is the Most High Yahweh and the Son Yahweh Shai speaking. This is Jeremiah 51. Jeremiah 50 and 25. It reads, the Lord Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, have opened his armory and have brought forth the weapons of his indignation. For this is the work of the Lord Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai of hosts, power of hosts, in the land of the Chaldeans. So, the Lord is bringing forth his armory, man. Okay? These are the weapons of his war. The Heavenly Father is what? A man of war.
3,500 cruise missiles at about $800,000 each. And these can't be mass-produced like the old-style shells. The same also applies to things like new planes, but at much higher costs. As a way to provide a lower-cost fire support with less reliance on air power or expensive missiles, the US Navy was looking for a way of firing hundreds or thousands of low-cost guided ordnance reaching up to 200 miles or 320 kilometres from the beach onto thousands of targets a day. Conventional large naval guns are limited by the rate of gas expansion from the explosive used to propel the projectile, giving them a range of around 45 kilometres, but with muzzle velocities of around 800 metres per second. A kinetic tank round has a muzzle velocity of up to 1900 metres per second, but has a range of only a few kilometres. The goal of a railgun is to deliver a guided projectile which is currently kinetic but could be explosive in the future, at around 2,500 metres per second at up to 200 miles or 320 kilometres, although the current technology, the range is around 120 kilometres. The current generation of electromagnetic railguns can accelerate a 10 kilogram projectile from 0 to more than Mach 6 in just 10 milliseconds. Emerging from a barrel in a plume of fire, these are as close as you can get to man-made meteorites raining down on enemy targets far beyond the horizon. Railguns might appear to be futuristic weapons, but the idea first appeared almost 100 years ago when the French inventor Louis-Octave Fauchon-Villeply submitted a patent for electrical apparatus for propelling projectiles in 1919. By 1944, the Nazis had drawn up more advanced plans for an anti-aircraft railgun that would use as much power as a large city. That was, however, never built. But it caused a great deal of interest when the plans were discovered after the war. The railgun works because of the Lorentz force discovered by engineers and mathematicians in the 19th century, and named after the Dutch Nobel Prize-winning physicist. The physics behind the railgun is simple enough to be demonstrated by a home-built railgun. Two parallel electrically conductive rails are connected to a large power source. One rail has a positive charge, the other rail a negative charge. To fire the gun, a moving armature or bridge connects the two, completing the circuit. This armature can be either a metal projectile or a thin film on the back of a non-metallic shell that carries the current across a plasma arc. When the electrical energy travels through the circuit, a very strong magnetic field is created and pushes the projectile down the barrel. In the video, the squarish-looking object being loaded into the gun is the sabot with the moving armature, and the projectile is placed inside that. When the sabot exits the barrel, it breaks apart, leaving the projectile, which has been accelerated to around 2,500 metres per second. The amount of electrical power discharged during a firing is around 5 million amps at 1200 volts for about 5 milliseconds, which works out at around 30 megajoules of power. In theory, this force is scalable and could allow for an on-demand, almost limitless acceleration. But in early railgun prototypes, the force was so great that it caused the rails to move apart, creating intense plasma arcing and friction that destroyed the rails and the barrel, making repairs necessary after every shot. Engineers have continued to work on the technology, and the electromagnetic weaponry and propulsion are looking more and more attractive. For the same reason, laser weapons have also seen significant investment in the recent decades, famously as a way to shoot down incoming ICBMs. A high-power railgun could do the same job, and so in 2005, the American Office for Naval Research, or the ONR, contracted BAE Systems to produce a prototype. The electromagnetic laboratory railgun was the result. It uses a 25 megawatt power plant, enough to power almost 19,000 homes, to create pulses of capacitor-based power. Phase 2 of BAE's contract began in 2012, working towards a railgun with a repeat fire capability. To achieve this, BAE's barrel design uses advanced materials to resist ablation and fire 5 rounds per minute. The range of the weapon will be around 125 miles or 200 kilometres, firing at speeds of up to 5,600 miles an hour, 9,000 kilometres per hour, with high accuracy. Firing at this rate, the total power of the weapon will be 32 megajoules of muzzle energy per minute. To achieve the 200 mile or 320 kilometre range, the energy required will be around 64 megajoules, but as yet, there aren't the high power capacitors or materials available to survive the multiple firings per minute. But this will undoubtedly be developed as time goes by. Currently, only the Zumwalt class destroyers of the US Navy with their 78 megawatts of power have enough capacity to power the 32 megajoule railguns, but other ships are looking at being upgraded. General Atomics have also produced a version called the Blitzer, which is looking to make both land and ship-based. Land bombardments aren't the only use the Navy is looking at. Because the speed of a projectile is so high, it could intercept an incoming supersonic anti-ship cruise missile at a distance much farther away than relying upon traditional anti-missile systems or phalanx guns. This ability could also be used against planes or even ballistic missiles. By having a proximity exploding projectile, it doesn't have to score a direct hit. It explodes just before interception to create a cloud of hypersonic shrapnel to hit a much larger target area. Another advantage is that the railgun's projectiles are compact. A ship could hold enough to carry out more shore bombardments than an aircraft carrier full of planes. With compact ammunition, the practical scale of a railgun weapon becomes more viable, and on extended operations gives it a huge advantage in firepower. Another advantage of kinetic weapons without warheads is that if a ship were to be hit, there is much less chance of a catastrophic ammo explosion, like those which destroyed ships in the past, like the HMS Hood and the HMS Bareham. In the future, railguns might be miniaturised further and find their way onto tanks and aircraft. But as a ground-based platform, there are non-military uses that could accelerate the development of useful working railguns.
Now you see, as it tell you in Daniel 12:4, that knowledge shall increase, man. And that knowledge is increasing on the left-hand side, and the knowledge is increasing on the right-hand side, man, with the elect, the hopeful elect, the elect, man. Okay? So the same way the knowledge is increasing on the left-hand side for the Idumeans, the knowledge is increasing on the right-hand side for the elect of Israel, man. Okay? But the Lord is giving these Idumeans this technology, man, because he's the man of war. Okay? And he won a good fight when he returned, man. When he sent his son to return to redeem the elect, he won a good fight, man. Okay? Which he can snap his fingers just like Thanos, and it'll all be over, man. But the Most High is a man of war, and his son is a man of war. Okay? Yahweh shall say when he returned, he would not meet the Idumeans as a man.
At NASA's Applied Physics Laboratory at the Kennedy Space Center, studies investigating using electromagnetic propulsion to accelerate a wedge-shaped spacecraft at Mach 10 on a trajectory high into the atmosphere. Then the spacecraft's onboard propulsion would engage to circularize, delivering a payload into orbit for a fraction of the cost of a traditional launch. NASA has a significant body of existing technology to draw on, such as the X-43 or the X-51 scramjet-powered vehicles, which have been shown to work in the real world. Whether for peaceful or destructive applications, the investment in railgun technology is likely to make its way from science fiction into practical use in the next decade or so.
And that's facts, man. That's facts, man. They pushing it on a heavy level.
We don't know how to defend against hypersonic missiles.
Hypersonic weapons can be destabilizing.
It creates an escalatory environment.
It increases the likelihood of a strategic conflict, and it decreases the ability to defend against it.
Now this is Isaiah 42:13, and this was from the brother Adam Nana. I had to redo this lesson because I had some problem with my speaker when I was using StreamYard. So this is Isaiah 42:13. The Lord Yahweh shall go forth as a mighty man. He shall stir up jealousy like a man of war. Okay, he said he's going to stir up jealousy, man, with all these nations. And these nations are going to come against Babylon the Great. That's the stirring up of the jealousy that Yahweh is doing, man. They say the Lord Yahweh shall go forth as a mighty man. He shall stir up jealousy like a man of war. He shall cry, yell, roar. He shall prevail against his enemies. Okay?
Flight speed is often compared to the speed of sound.
The speed of sound, that's Mach 1.
Sound travels through air about 10 times as fast as we drive on the freeway.
Commercial airliners, for example, fly subsonically right under Mach 1.
A modern fighter can travel supersonically at Mach 2 or 3.
Anything Mach 5 and above, we're calling hypersonic speeds. Mach 25 is about the upper limit.
We do have space shuttles that go hypersonically, that go Mach 20 or 24.
However, it's only flying hypersonically for a relatively short period of time.
but technology is just now emerging which will enable sustained hypersonic flight.
There are three primary hurdles to the development of hypersonic weapons.
First, the aerodynamics and flight control at hypersonic speeds are a major challenge.
The second has to do with material science.
You could think of it as flying into this blowtorch. The faster a vehicle flies, the pressure and temperature rises exponentially.
So you have to have materials that can withstand the high temperatures over a long period of time. The third challenge involves the propulsion system of hypersonic cruise missiles.
Once you reach Mach 5, you can't use your traditional jets and just make them go faster.
You need a completely different design to unclutter the flow path and sustain combustion of the supersonic airflow inside the engine.
It has been compared to lighting a match in a 2,000-mile-an-hour wind.
And then the integration of all of these technologies into a weapons system is in itself a challenge.
The three countries that are getting close to being able to deploy them are Russia, China, and the US.
It's probably less than a decade for these top three countries. Other countries, however, are much farther behind, in part because the technical challenges and the engineering challenges for these weapons require massive amounts of investment.
So they would require extensive foreign assistance.
However, as time goes on, the knowledge related to these technologies are going to start proliferating.
You see, Daniel 12:4, man. Okay? And knowledge shall increase, man. The Lord is putting his heavy spirit on these Idumeans to create these missiles. Okay? They're going to create these missiles to the max out of ability, man. Okay? Their capability of going the furthest. Okay? And being with superpower, man. The Lord has got a heavy spirit on these people, and they don't even understand what's going on. They talking about the other nations are catching up to Russia, China, and the U.S. Listen, man, as the scripture tell you in Joel 3, man, starting at verse 9, the weak nations are becoming strong, man. Okay. Putin is hey, he's selling missile defense systems to all the other countries, man. Okay, S-300s, 400s. 700 and if he's selling S3, 4, 5, 600, 700s, you know he got to have a S900, man. Okay.
There really are two types of missiles emerging: hypersonic cruise missiles and hypersonic glide vehicles. Hypersonic cruise missiles are powered all the way to their targets using an advanced propulsion system called a scramjet. These are very, very fast. You may have 6 minutes from the time it's launched until the time it strikes. So hypersonic glide vehicles are just that. They're a very fast glider.
The way it's launched is they put it on top of a rocket, it re-enters, then it flies on top of the atmosphere. It's like a plane with no engine on it, and it uses aerodynamic forces to maintain stability, to fly along, and to maneuver.
Because it's maneuverable, it can keep its target a secret up until the last few seconds of its flight.
The current types of missile defenses are not adequate to defend against hypersonic missiles.
Our whole defensive system is based on the assumption that you're going to intercept a ballistic object.
A ballistic missile is like a fly ball in baseball. The outfielder knows exactly where to catch it because its path is determined by momentum and gravity.
It's a different scenario. The combination of the maneuverability and the speed makes hypersonic missiles unpredictable and extremely difficult to defend against.
The faster you go, the more kinetic energy you have. In some cases, you may not need to put any explosives on it. The kinetic energy of the vehicle itself is sufficient to be able to cause quite a bit of destruction.
Most countries use some form of what we call an OODA loop when they're making decisions about whether to respond to a threat or not. You observe a threat, you figure out where it's coming from, then decide whether you need to respond, and then act on that decision.
How are you going to shoehorn all those steps into 6 minutes?
There are two implications here. The first is that people will become more trigger happy. the compressed time frame to make a decision makes people much more likely to want to be the first strike as opposed to the second strike, because you can't preserve your second strike capabilities. The second implication is that if you can't defend against a decapitation attack, then you have to devolve command and control of your weapons into the field.
To the military rather than to the national leaders. That runs the risk of an accidental strategic war. Another possibility is to disperse your strategic weapons. That runs...
Hey, Revelation, chapter 9. Let's read that first. Revelation 9, and is it 9 and 12? One woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter. Okay? So that's World War I. And then came World War II. Revelation 11 and 14. And it reads, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. What is this? World War III, man. Okay? World War III, man.
The risk of the weapons being seized by terrorists. Another possibility is to go to a strategic doctrine called launch on warning. And finally, you can just decide in a crisis that there is going to be a full-scale strategic conflict, and you strike first. None of these options is very good.
I think the world would be a more dangerous place.
Hey, that's facts, man. Hey, because destruction, man. Okay? This Third World War is going to be the end-all, be-all of Babylon the Great in North America, man.
Unless we have some sort of an agreement with each other to not share those technologies.
The end.
Hey, it's not up to you, man. This is the spirit and power of Yahweh Yahweh Shai, man. Okay? This is the pride of the heart of these devils, man. They have no say-so in this. Proverbs 20:24 say, man's goings are of the Lord. How can that man they understand their own way? Proverbs 21:1 say, the king's heart is in the hand of Yahweh. Just like the rivers of water, he turneth it, whatsoever he will.
The state that we're trying to avoid is the proliferation of hypersonic technology, not just to rogue nations, but also to nations with regional rivalries that could prove to be very destabilizing. What we're recommending...
You can't avoid this. I just read, Jeremiah 15:25, man. The Lord have opened his armory. He have brought forth the weapons of his indignation, not yours.
Is a kind of addendum or amendments to the missile technology control regime.
This regime could be supplemented with some controls on hypersonic components. It would be a waste of time to do this if the US or Russia or China plan to export complete missiles.
If you can just start with a trilateral agreement between these 3 major nations, that would be taking a really effective step in terms of controlling the proliferation of these weapons.
I am optimistic about the US, Russia, and China. It's in their interest to do this. And there's time to do it. Not a lot of time, but a few years.
That's facts. It's not a lot of time to do this, man. Okay? The Lord, Matthew 24:22, man. The Lord say, except those days be shortened, there shall no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days have been shortened, man. Okay? The Lord shortened these days up, man. And these devils don't even realize they run out of time, man. That's why Revelation 12:12 say they're going to come down with great wrath, man. Okay? Job 14:5 say, seeing his days are determined, the Lord has set a bound that he cannot pass, man. So they're going to come down with great wrath. That's why 1 Peter 5:8 say, Satan walketh about as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour, man. Okay? Trying to find a way to destroy Jake, man. So, hey, he can take down many of us is possible, man.
This isn't an ordinary missile. It's a hypersonic missile. That means it's way faster than supersonic. Several times faster to be exact.
Right.
This specific missile was built by Russia, China and the United States are also developing hypersonic missiles that could carry nuclear warheads and evade traditional defense systems. If that sounds like the makings of a Cold War-style three-way arms race, that's because it most definitely is. And what could go wrong with that?
5 nuclear scientists, described as the elite of Russia's main nuclear test site, killed with 2 others when a small nuclear reactor exploded. They were testing an engine, thought to be for this new cruise missile.
Here's what's behind the race to develop hypersonic weapons.
In 10 years, the field of aeronautics has kept pace with man's desire to fly ever higher, faster, and farther.
So what we're seeing now in the landscape is that the United States has been involved in wars in the Middle East, whereas adversaries like Russia and China have had a lot more time to spend researching and developing hypersonic weapons. So currently the United States does not have any defense against a hypersonic weapon. On top of that, they don't also have any hypersonic weapons of their own. So when you think about the top competitors in this field, you have Russia sprinting to develop hypersonic weapons, and you also have China sprinting to develop theirs.
And they already got them, man.
The United States has been playing backup to this sort of effort.
When we call something supersonic, we're saying it travels faster than the speed of sound, which is about 343 meters per second in air. Think fighter jets and the Concorde. When you hear the phrase Mach 1, that's the speed of sound. Mach 2, 3, 4, and 5 refer to something traveling twice the speed of sound, or 3 times, 4 times. You get the idea. Technically, hypersonic speeds happen at Mach 5 and above. NASA's space shuttle, for example, could travel at 25 times the speed of sound when it re-enters the atmosphere. When we talk about hypersonic weapons, there are 2 major types in development. There are hypersonic cruise missiles. This kind of weapon is launched from aircraft and act like super-fast, self-propelled cruise missiles. And there are hypersonic glide vehicles. These get a boost from a rocket and then glide at super high altitudes before hitting their targets.
Right. That's why it say that
All that said, hypersonic weapons are virtually impossible to defend against.
that's why it tell you that North America is gonna be destroyed in 1 hour, man. Okay? For in 1 hour, man. 1 hour, man. Cause once these intercontinental ballistic missiles get shot, they go up in the atmosphere and they come back down, man. Okay? At speeds of like Mach 20, man. Okay?
Most national missile defense networks were set up to deter traditional intercontinental ballistic missiles, like pop flies in baseball, not hypersonic weapons. They need something like a shortstop to catch them.
So the simplest way to explain ballistic missile flight is if I were on a baseball field and I threw someone a ball, you kind of have an idea of where that baseball is going to land. It'll make an arc in the sky and then it will drop down. For hypersonic weapons, they take on their own specific flight patterns, so those are not predictable, and that's why they're the biggest challenge right now for the United States. So a hypersonic missile, for instance, can get arched into the sky and then it can make a right-hand turn or a left-hand turn. So if you think about that baseball analogy, think about a baseball going up in the air and then all of a sudden jutting to the right or jutting to the left or going up a few feet and then going down a few feet.
Attention missile sites. Fire on designated targets. You may fly out when ready.
Russia, China, and the United States all want to be the first military with functional hypersonic weapons.
So what the Pentagon is trying to do now is equip all of the service branches, the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Air Force, and the Army with their version of a hypersonic weapon. As we look to what potential defense industries are sort of home-suited to win these types of contracts, Lockheed Martin really is in their swim lane here. Lockheed created that Blackbird, which was able to achieve hypersonic flight at a reconnaissance type level.
China has a hypersonic glide weapon called...
And we got Lockheed Martin right here in Orlando too, man.
...the WU-14, in development since 2014. It can reportedly reach speeds of Mach 10. Russia has several hypersonic weapons in development. In 2018, Russian President Vladimir Putin brought hypersonic weapons into the forefront when he announced that testing of one such weapon was complete, the Avant-Garde. Putin claimed the weapon can reach speeds of Mach 20.
Right.
There's also the hypersonic cruise missile known as Skyfall.
So one of the weapons that Putin showed off back in March last year was a nuclear-powered cruise missile.
There it is, man.
Cruise missile,
that's them warheads.
This specific missile was...
Oh, Salakia. I went back. Salakia for that.
...forefront. when he announced that testing of one such weapon was complete, the Avant-Garde. Putin claimed the weapon can reach speeds of Mach 20. There's also the hypersonic cruise missile known as Skyfall.
So one of the weapons that Putin showed off back in March last year was a nuclear-powered cruise missile.
And right there, once it's split, man. Now on this head right here, okay, on the missiles, hey, that's why I say 200 million. Okay, 200,000 in Revelation 9 and 16, which is 200 million missiles. Because in these heads are many other missiles going to come out of that head, man. Okay?
So that cruise missile, he boasted, could have unlimited flight. So basically what it does is it's not running off of gasoline or anything, or rockets. It is constantly fueling itself. So in theory, it's flying at hypersonic speeds, and it could fly anywhere around the world. The problem with that is the technical challenges in developing something of that magnitude are significant. And based off of my reporting, Russia hasn't been able to launch this weapon and have a successful test flight of it. So as these hypersonic weapons are emerging and developing, and the ambition is there for Russia and China to add them to their arsenal, what we're seeing happen is deteriorating relationships with the United States as well. For instance, with Russia and the US, the INF Treaty collapsed. When we talk about renegotiating potential treaties, hypersonic weapons could be something that either party decides to add into this new breed of threat moving forward.
The hypersonic arms race is a big deal for national security, and it means big business for US defense firms.
The developments of the hypersonic weapons arms race is going to open up a massive market for defense industry, because when you think about the Navy, the Air Force, the Army all wanting to have their own breed of hypersonic weapon, there's more than enough for defense industry to pick up all of those types of contracts out of the Pentagon.
The Lord say, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hook into spears. In Joel the 3rd chapter.
Also an arms race among American defense contractors. Currently, the Pentagon has nearly a dozen programs tasked with developing and defending against this new breed of weapons. Last year, the Pentagon awarded 2 multi-billion-dollar hypersonic weapons contracts to Lockheed Martin. And when it comes to hypersonic flight, the defense giant is playing in its home court. Lockheed is also in the process of developing the SR-72, a hypersonic unmanned plane dubbed the son of the Blackbird.
Hey, man, they getting ready to, man. The Lord giving them the spirit, man. The Lord putting the spirit on them to do it, man. Okay? He advancing that technology, man. Daniel 12 and 4, knowledge shall increase, man. Knowledge shall increase.
Russia says it tested a new hypersonic glide vehicle this week. President Vladimir Putin observed the test. He declared that the vehicle cannot be stopped and will guarantee his country's security for many years. Putin spoke of the successful test of the weapon Wednesday during a visit to the Defense Ministry in Moscow. The following day, the U.S. Department of Defense reacted to the Russian announcement. While the United States has been the world leader in hypersonic system research for many decades, we did not choose to weaponize it, said a department official, Lieutenant Colonel Michelle Baldanza. She added that the decision to make hypersonic weapons creates an imbalance that the department must deal with. She said the United States was considering options to answer the new weapons. The hypersonic glide vehicle, described by Putin, is called the Avant-Garde. It was tested on December 26th at the Dombarovsky missile base in the southern Ural Mountains. Russian officials said the missile successfully hit a target in Kamchatka, about 6,000 kilometers away to the east.
Wow, 6,000 miles away,
man. The weapon is
man.
called hypersonic because of its extremely high speed. It travels as fast as several times the speed of sound. Putin called the test an excellent New Year's gift to the nation. His announcement comes at a time when relations between Russia and the United States are tense.
Now you see that right there? That's a nuclear silo. That's a missile silo. Okay? And the scriptures tell you about these nuclear silos, man. This is Job. This is Job 20 and 25. Now you see how it just opened up. And you're going to see how a missile is going to come out of there. An intercontinental ballistic missile. Job 20 and 25. It is drawn and cometh out of the body. This is the body that you see. The door opening up on the body of the missile silo. It is drawn and cometh out of the body. Yeah, the glittering sword cometh out of his gall. The glittering sword is talking about the missile. Terrors are upon him. Who? Are upon the wicked, man. Okay? But this is a missile silo, a nuclear silo. The door just opened up. It is drawn and cometh out of the body. What? The glittering sword, man. This missile.
Conflicts in Syria and Ukraine, as well as reports of Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. elections, have tested relations. Some observers say ties between the two sides are at their worst since the period known as the Cold War. A rocket lifts the Ava.
And what did the Lord say he's going to do? What did the Lord say he's going to do to Gog and Magog, man? Let's read that. Ezekiel 38. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against it. And say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai Power, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army. The point is, he said, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. What is it talking about? Russia going back into that old Soviet Union. Okay, that old Cold War mentality, man. Okay? That war mentality, man. That old Soviet Union mindset, man. Of straight war and destruction.
The missile then glides back to Earth at speeds many times faster than sound.
Right, and that's what they're going to do,
U.S. defense officials were not surprised by the announcement of the test. In a speech to Russians on March 1st, Putin described a group of new weapons that, he said, could make others useless. Among the weapons he spoke about were new nuclear weapons, including cruise missiles and underwater drones. In his latest announcement, Putin said the avant-garde is designed from composite materials. He also said it is able to resist temperatures of up to 2,000 degrees Celsius. Putin said the avant-garde would be ready by as early as 2019. It is not clear if it is able to carry a nuclear weapon. There were reports of another Russian hypersonic weapon test this month. American broadcaster CNBC reported that Russia successfully tested a new anti-ship missile. The missile is said to travel 8 times the speed of sound, or more than 9,800 kilometers an hour. The missile is called Zircon, but little information about it is known. The magazine Popular Mechanics reported that the weapon can travel a distance of 300 kilometers and be launched from ships, which may include submarines. Zircon may be similar to a hypersonic missile developed with India. The US, Russia, and China are all believed to have hypersonic weapons under development. I'm Mario Ritter Jr.
So I'm gonna play this one. This will be the last one.
Since the dawn of warfare, man has always strived to invent the perfect weapon to defeat his enemies.
Now I'm gonna run this back, cause this is all prophecy, man. Let me show you some. This is all prophecy.
Since the dawn of warfare, man has always strived to
Run it back one more time. Run it back one more time.
Since the dawn of warfare, man has...
Right here. If you see this, this is prophecy, man. In the ancient time, they used to fight. They used to line up on both sides of the field and yell out, "Charge, man!" Okay, and both sides go to charging at each other, man. Okay, with sword, shield, helmet. With swords and shields, spears, daggers. Okay, this is Isaiah chapter 9 and 5. It reads. Isaiah 9 and 5. And it reads, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood." That confused noise is yelling, "Charge." All you hear is back and forth, screaming and yelling, right? For every battle of the warrior with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. Yeah, it used to be bloody out there on them fields, man. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. Okay? World War I, World War II, how Antiochus Epiphanes fought, him and his army, how Alexander the Great fought. Okay, they all used to line up on both sides of the field and charge out, man. Okay? That's how they fought. Blood, sweat, and tears, man. Shields, swords, daggers, spears. Okay?
Has always strived to invent the perfect weapon to defeat his enemies. And it really is amazing how far we've come since then, with some organizations inventing some unreal weapons. From a fully automatic 12-gauge shotgun to a crazy gun that fires over 1 million rounds per minute. Check out these 10 insane military technologies. Auto Assault 12. The AA-12 Auto Assault Shotgun is one of the rarest and most sought-after shotguns in the world. It was originally developed by Maxwell Atchison during his time at Military Armaments Corporation in the early 70s. Production rights were then sold to Jerry Baber of Military Police Systems in 1987, who released his improved model in 2004, and a year later it entered production after having no less than 200 changes and improvements over the original blueprint. The AA-12 is a fully automatic gas-operated API blowback shotgun chambered for two 3/4-inch 12-gauge shells, including buckshot, flares, slugs, stun batons, and high-explosive Frag-12 grenade rounds. It can use two types of magazines, a detachable 8-round box magazine or a drum with capacity ranging from 20 to 32 rounds. It has a cyclic rate of 300 rounds per minute with a muzzle velocity of 1,050 feet per second. The slow rate of fire makes single shots or bursts very easy to achieve by briefly pulling the trigger, despite the fact that it fires in full auto only. Expanding bullet. It's interesting to know that even war has rules when it comes to using certain kinds of ammunition. During the First World War, German newspapers began accusing the French, along with mythical Belgian free shooters, of using what was called dum-dum, or expanding bullets. An official German complaint showed that the British were issuing this ammunition to its army. The bullet, a .455 Mk4 round, was a flat-nosed, unjacketed man-stopper type of ammunition. It was quickly withdrawn from frontline service because it was outlawed by the 1907 Hague Convention because they could cause terrible wounds and unnecessary suffering. It was the Indian Army that developed the hollow-nose expanding bullet in Dum Dum, an industrial municipality outside of Calcutta and where the round got its name from. Bullets with pointed tips were then designed for use in the early 1900s to improve ballistic performance, but these had a tendency to tumble upon entering the human body, and sometimes causing far more damage than dum-dums. The interesting thing is that hollow point ammunition is widely used by police forces in the USA because of its stopping power, along with the argument that restricting them would harm innocent bystanders. Nerve Agent VX. When it comes to being the most insane and deadly weapons of all time, VX, or Venomous Agent X, should be at the top of the list. Stockpiles of the stuff have been continually destroyed since the Chemical Weapons Convention of 1997 outlawed their use. Classified by the United Nations as a weapon of mass destruction and
this is what they're going to use, man. It's called, it's called biowarfare, man. Body warfare, man. Chemicals, man. They're going to use chemicals. This is Jeremiah 28:8. And it reads, Jeremiah chapter 28 and verse 8. The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms, of war and of evil and of pestilences. Part of these pestilences is going to be these diseases that the CDC have, man. And they're going to release them. They're going to release them, and they're going to destroy 2/3 of you so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans, man. As famine going to destroy you, as these Gurgle troops, these UN troops, all these troops they're going to bring in, these mercenaries, all these troops, these soldiers, and they're going to use biowarfare on you too, as well, man.
Defined by the CDC as the most potent of all nerve agents, VX is an incredibly potent and rapid-acting poison that cripples the nervous system and causes total paralysis.
And these guys show you in these movies, man, Walking Dead. Where you think that happened at? That happened in Atlanta, man. What's in Atlanta, man? The CDC, man. The Center for Disease Control, They're going to use these different chemicals, man. Biowarfare. All these movies about zombies, how people turn in a day's time, man. Once these diseases got released, these different bacterias, and you jakes don't even have a clue what's coming.
And eventually, the victim suffocates. It is fatal after breathing in just 25 to 30 milligrams, or just 10 milligrams if it comes into contact with the skin. Once in the body, it works rapidly by acting on a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, which neurons rely on to send signals to muscles ordering them to move. Once the signals are sent, acetylcholine breaks down, ending the line of communication. VX prevents acetylcholine from breaking down, resulting in an overabundance of communication. The muscles get overstimulated, and the brain can no longer control the body's movements. Symptoms include blurred vision, drooling and sweating, rapid breathing, and irregular heart rate. It is when the muscles that guide the chest's rise and fall during breathing are affected that it becomes a major problem. And when they are paralyzed, breathing becomes impossible. And it all happens within minutes. No wonder this terrible weapon is outlawed. Hydrogen bomb. The hydrogen bomb, or thermonuclear bomb, is more powerful than atomic or fission bombs like the ones that were used to devastate the Japanese cities of Nagasaki and Hiroshima during World War II.
Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness? Yeah, those bombs that they just showed you that they dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki are called Fat Man and Little Boy.
Those bombs exploded with a yield of 15 and 20 kilotons of TNT, respectively. In contrast, the first test of a hydrogen bomb in the United States happened in November 1952, which yielded an explosion of 10,000 kilotons of TNT, and by 1954, the United States detonated a bomb in nuclear test Castle Bravo, which had a yield of 15 megatons of TNT. 2.5 times more than the predicted 6.0 megatons, which was the result of using lithium deuteride, resulting in a tritium bonus, where cascading neutrons transformed it into tritium and helium, and tritium causes extremely energetic fusion. At 6:45 a.m. local time on March 1st, 1954, the device was detonated, and many observers knew something had gone spectacularly wrong in the first seconds. The flash from the bomb was so great that men saw their bones appear as shadows through their flesh, and streams of light shone through the smallest cracks and pinholes in secured doors and hatches.
For every battle of the warrior, Isaiah 9:5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. But this, what? World War III, shall be with burning and fuel of fire, man. Okay? From these intercontinental ballistic missiles, man. Malachi 4:1. The day come that shall burn as an oven, man. Okay? 2 Peter 3:10, man. The Lord going to come like a thief. The day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall melt with fervent heat, man. Okay? And all that is therein, man, on this entire planet is going to melt with fervent heat, man.
More than 30 miles away aboard Navy ships, sailors said the heat was like having a blowtorch aimed at their bodies.
See?
The shockwave was incredible, almost knocking observation aircraft from the sky. And then there was the fireball, stretching 4 miles in diameter, and hotter than the surface of the sun. It was the biggest explosion in history at the time.
This is what North America, all 5,000 square miles of North America will be a lake of fire, man, from these missiles. Okay? And if you got people jumping from out of the World Trade Center, the 95th floor, because of the jet fuel, just think how hot the fuel is going to, just think how hot the heat, the fire is going to be from these intercontinental ballistic missiles, man.
But later, the Soviet Union would drop something much bigger. Metal Storm. If a name ever fit a weapon perfectly, then it would be the Metal Storm. This thing is an Australian-made US-funded weapon and has 36 barrels put together in a box configuration that can reportedly fire 1.62 million rounds per minute and fires 180 rounds in a 0.01 second burst. And at its peak, it can send a wall of 24,000 9mm rounds moving at Mach 5. The fastest mechanical weapon system can only spit out around 6,000 rounds per minute, but the Metal Storm ammunition cartridge is special and has no shell casing and no primer. In fact, the gun...
Isaiah 66:15. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. Okay? And the slain of the Lord shall be many. Luke chapter 12, verse 4-9. Yahushua said he come to send fire on earth. And what will he if it be already kindled, man? Okay?
The gun itself has no trigger hammer or breech block. The craziest thing is that the only moving part is the bullets, which are stacked up nose to tail in each barrel and are fired electronically, one at a time, from front to rear. Although it's really insane, the cost and the weight, not to mention the setup time for single use, keep the application of this weapon very circumstantial. Like when you need to shoot something 1 million times in just 60 seconds. Plague bomb. Located in Harbin, China, Unit 731 was created with legitimate intentions by the Japanese government to promote public health and conduct research that would benefit Japanese soldiers, including how long someone could survive hunger, thirst, and certain diseases. But as the war went on, the Japanese turned to using prisoners of war as test subjects, and at least 250,000 people perished at the hands of experimentation. The most...
How many of you peoples out here in the land can go without eating 24 hours? Not many of you. Only the elect is going to be able to do these things.
Terrible things you can imagine were done here. So terrible, we can't speak about them on this video. But one of the...
We know. Why? because the wicked is in rulership of the earth.
Things they tested was releasing rats infected with bubonic plague with the intention of infecting the prisoners so they could be studied. This led to the plague bomb, and in China's eastern province of Xinjiang and central Hunan province from 1940 to 1942, rats were airdropped. And people who lived in these areas describes how people dropped like flies in hours or days, their bodies swollen and black. Luckily for the United States, the Japanese surrender on September 2, 1945 stopped a plan for kamikaze pilots to attack San Diego with planes filled with plague-infected fleas. NSEEK-3 laser weapon system. Thanks to some early science fiction stories, laser weapons have always fascinated many people. For a while, many people thought such weapons would be impossible to create, or would be powerful enough to do serious damage so that it could be used in warfare. But the future has arrived. The NSEEK-3 laser weapon system, or more easily called the XN-1 Laws, is a directed energy laser weapon developed by the United States Navy. The first prototype was installed on the USS Ponce for testing in 2014, where it worked perfectly against low-end threats and took out a UAV and a simulated small boat attacker. Laws uses an infrared beam with a solid-state laser array, which can be tuned to destroy a target using 30,000 watts of power to fry sensors, burn out motors, or detonate explosive materials such as rockets or bombs mounted on warplanes or helicopters.
Now, if the Lord gave them this technology to have these lasers, what type of lasers you think Yahushua is coming with on the chariots, man? Okay? He's coming with the ultimate concentrated heat lasers, man. Okay? They say he will destroy the wicked with the brightness of his coming, man. The chariots, 20,000 angels, 20,000 chariots coming in V formation shaped like birds flying, man. And thousands of angels, man. 20,000 chariots in V formation, man. Coming to do what? To defend the elect of so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans. The elect of 12 tribes of Israel, man. Okay?
Neutron bomb. Another weapon sounding like it's right out of a science fiction novel is the neutron bomb. It's also called an enhanced radiation warhead, and is a specialized nuclear weapon that doesn't produce as large a blast as a conventional nuclear warhead, and instead releases large amounts of lethal radiation. It's actually a small thermonuclear bomb with a few kilograms of plutonium or uranium ignited by a conventional explosive, which creates a fission trigger to ignite a fusion explosion in a capsule containing several grams of deuterium tritium.
Let me read this. Habakkuk chapter 3 and verse 4. And his brightness was as the light. He had horns coming out of his hand, and there was the hiding of his power. Before him went the pestilence, and burning coals went forth at his feet. It say out of his hands went. It say he had horns coming out of his hand, and there was the hiding of his power, and his brightness was as the light, and had horns coming out of his hand. The horn, hey, coming out of the chariot's gonna be lasers, man. Okay, go look up that horns right there in Habakkuk 3, man. It's talking about lasers, man. Concentrated heat.
With us? Good. This bomb might have only a 1 kiloton yield, but in a 1.2 mile radius, the fusion reaction would throw off a powerful wave of neutron and gamma radiation, penetrating through armor, several feet of earth, and through living tissue.
Everything gonna be destroyed, man.
Electromagnetic
thermonuclear, man. Okay, we already went through the rail gun. Thermonuclear fire, man. Okay, all different type of pestilences, man. All different types, man. CDC, Yahweh Bashim Hawashah, man, got something real heavy for 2/3 of Israel, man. What it say, Habakkuk 1 and 5? I will work in your day. Though it be told to you, you will not believe it, man. Okay? Hey, so put on the whole armor of Yahweh Bashim Hawashah now, man, or be destroyed. So with them, give all praise and honor and glory to Yahweh. Bahashim Yahawashah, Bahashim Rikah Korash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who well, who teach well. And a sincere salutation to all the occupant pushing this truth and believing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, the entire world. But hit up the hopeful elect. And shalom to the Akwaf who are listening and learning. The few sisters who are listening and learning. Hey, Lord willing, edifying. Till next time, shalom.